Tonight, we're lifting the lid on something rotten, something festering in the shadows of your local elections. I'm talking about ballots moved in the dead of night by people with no business touching them. Republican Party officials transporting voted ballots in their personal trucks and mysterious pit stops before the tabulation center, which raises a whole lot of questions no one wants to answer. Joining me is election integrity expert Gregory Stenstrom, a naval officer veteran, a forensic and computer expert, and a man who's been in the foxhole since 2020, sounding the alarm on election fraud in Delaware County, Pennsylvania. If you saw his documentary, The Big Con, you already know what kind of firepower this guy brings. And now he's lending his expertise to help us break down what I caught on camera right here in Brazoria County. You'll hear the full story about suspicious convoys of ballots, a 2-hour delay before delivery, and officials caught red-handed. Different year, same dirty tricks. This isn't about party politics. It's about truth. It's about accountability. And it's about restoring confidence in our election system, which is supposed to be ran by we the people, not party operatives. It's a system that's been hijacked from the inside, and we must start making moves to take it back. So buckle up, we've got the receipts, and tonight we're going to show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. No one is above the law. The people have had enough. We will root out the criminals and expose them all. We're fighting to expose the criminal element in Texas. Our investigation in the Brazoria County's justice system has just begun.
And now your host, Kevin Henry.
On November 3rd, 2020, Super Tuesday, I had to go to the Wharf building, and that's where they collected all of the mail-in ballots, and they centrally counted the election machine output. We got there, we had to wait for about 6 hours before they would let us in. I think we surprised them a little bit. First introduction to the way the election was being run. We saw basically chaos. We saw racks of mail-in ballots moving around over 3 different elevator banks, being moved into different rooms, handled by a large number of people with no chain of custody. Once I got up to the counting center and observed everything, as a fraud expert, what I look for is where they don't have cameras, and I look for what is trying to be hidden.
Welcome back to the Kevin Henry Podcast. Before we get started, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It helps us get the word out about the show. Also, please share with your family and friends. Now I'd like to welcome Gregory Stenstrom to our show. Welcome, Greg.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you playing the clip. It helps people understand where we're going in this interview. So looking forward to it.
Greg, tell us a little bit about your background and what you witnessed as a poll watcher during the 2020 election.
In my civilian career, I've done primarily security. So I helped secure a lot of our national infrastructure. I was responsible for the encryption of the Federal Reserve or specific banks in the Federal Reserve, the FDIC, Naval Space Warfare Command. I have an extensive background in fraud as well. So I was asked during the 2020 election, because of that background, I was asked to observe the election on Election Day. The fraud and the types of fraud and the machinations they used to steal that election were jaw-dropping. And I think one of the big things that was a little different from around the country is because of the work I had done previously, I sent a declaration with all of the evidence and accusations. I called the U.S. Attorney for Pennsylvania, who was an acquaintance. We're not friends, but I had a cell phone number, and I called Bill McSwain, and I said, look, we got 7 machines here that we need to do images. I need a team down here, or I can provide my own team. We'll get the forensics. I can prove massive election fraud. We can have this wrapped up in a couple of days. Most people didn't know who to call and what to do. That 27-page disclosure Bill McSwain sent up to William Barr, Attorney General William Barr. That memo went through the entire U.S. government within 2 hours. The FBI, CIA got it, all the U.S. attorneys got it, and Bill Barr didn't know what to do with it. So what they did on that following, that was a Saturday after Super Tuesday, and on Monday, that's when Bill Barr went on to TV, and he had a public statement and he said there is no evidence of widespread election fraud. They didn't want to investigate. They knew that the crime, we've since proved that they knew the whole time. They knew the election was stolen. The FBI directors knew, Christopher Wray knew, Inspector General Horowitz knew, U.S. Attorney General Barr knew, Richard Pilger, who was responsible for election crimes, knew, and they decided to do was to let it go and let the election be stolen. We have hard physical evidence of that at this point.
It sounds like this is being swept under the rug from the very top, from the tip of the spear. Why is that? Why would they sweep something so substantial under the rug, knowing that you have all the evidence? And surely they have to realize that this is widespread election fraud. It's not just a local issue, because there was people all over the country screaming, especially in a lot of the battleground states. Why was this swept under the rug by the top of the line, the tip of the spear?
In quick summary, our government has been captured. Totally captured in the last probably 10, 15 years since Obama. It's been a work in progress since the late 70s. And the reason is there's a small group of people that we've identified with the help of Colonel Timothy Schindler, who's also a doctor. He holds multiple master's degrees, doctorates. The two of us have been working together. He's been working for 10 years on this. I've been working for 5, and there's a team of people that have worked on this. And what's happened is they've identified a small group of people, and it's called the CIGI, the Council for the Inspectors General Integrity. And it's what they call a sui generis organization. It was created in 1978. And what the council is they are above the law. They are untouchable. They can impeach a president. They can sweep an assassination attempt under the rug. They can steal elections. And the entire purpose is to extract wealth from the citizens of the United States. And I think what you've heard it from President Trump is aware of this. Elon Musk was aware of it. Pam Bondi's aware of it. You hear during a lot of press conferences, and it was in the first paragraph of President Trump's inaugurational speech, he said, we are going to stop the wealth extraction of the American public by this group of people. So these people have been identified. And I just call out the SIGI. And what I see and one of the reasons I look forward to shows like this where we can have, one-on-one, and I know you've been deeply affected by election fraud, which we're going to get to. People always say, well, it's the cabal, it's the deep state. It's, the WEF, it's the New World Order. You pick a boogeyman. And
well, you just named all the names, and now they're going to pull us off of YouTube.
No, they won't. We've been doing this, but people want to know. And the thing is it's what gives us hope. The difference between a lot of the podcasts is they invoke anger. They invoke an emotion, and people get mad. And they go, somebody should do something. And what I want to tell your audience and tell you is there are people doing something. One of the results of the lawsuits that we pressed, Inspector General Horowitz being one, he just stepped down from the chair of the SIGI, and he's been moved over to the Federal Reserve just in the last couple of weeks in response to what we're doing. So I want your audience to know these types of investigations, they take a while. They take 10 years. But we've had people working on this for 10 years. I've been working on it for 5, and we all know what we're doing.
Right. Well, that sounds very promising. What did the officials do at the local level whenever you started blowing the whistle on what you were witnessing?
I've done a lot of this. I have done public corruption, as a practice, pretty well. Not so much voluntarily. I don't hang a shingle out. My primary job is information security, networks, databases for large enterprises, big companies, and government contracts. That's really my expertise. But I get called into a lot of fraud investigations. So I was used to what would happen. And what they did is they retaliated. I had people come to the house several times in cars, thugs in cars, 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. and had to tap on their window with a barrel of a 30-30 a couple of times. That's a true story.
Wow.
This was documented. Governor Shapiro sent 2 agents to our house personally to threaten us, and it didn't work out well for the agents. And they really went through everything that they could do. They targeted us for partisan lawfare. I was co-defendant with President Trump and Rudy Giuliani, Leah Hoops, and several other luminaries in 3 different defamation suits, including Newsmax, OAN, Margot Cleveland, Hogan Gidley, and we were targeted in lawsuits, which we won. And people in the news media doesn't know that Leah and myself went pro se, and we did all the heavy lifting. And those cases,
I was going to say, it must have been extremely hard to find an attorney that would pick that case up, huh?
Yeah. Well, the first attorney we had, they went and they tried to disbar. In fact, every single attorney that got involved in election fraud at a level that makes a difference was threatened. They're all fighting disbarment. The first lawyer that we had, Deborah Silver, God love her, they went right after her, and they went after the other attorneys as well. So Leah and I found that it was better to go pro se. And what they weren't expecting is they weren't expecting her veracity, and they weren't expecting my, I'm going to say, legal skills from doing different work. Right. I use, like I said, I'm a computer scientist. I use advanced computer techniques. I use, artificial intelligence, cognitive inference. So I can ingest a large amount of data, and I can generate filings very quickly. We generated over 15,000 filings, 15,000 pages of evidence and data, videos, audios, and we basically proved our case. And they had to concede. We said, you did exactly what we said you did. And truth is a complete defense to any lawfare suit.
Right.
We won them, and we won in Philadelphia. We won in Delaware County. We've been sued by Delaware County and county officials. We've been opposing primarily law firms, Dwayne Morse, Ballot Spar, which are very large law firms. They put the full weight of these law firms on us, and we beat them back. We've got a case pending right now, and it's a litigative headshot. They have no choice but to drop the case. It'll be, if they try to press it any further, it'll be reversed on appeal. But we've been doing this for 5 years. 5 years of lawfare, 5 years in the courts. There was a heavy price to this, but I knew, and I warned Leah, and I think that takes more courage on her part, because I said, look, this is a common trajectory. When you go after a U.S. senator, a U.S. congressman, a mayor, sheriff, you go after people that have power.
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. She seems like a bulldog.
She is a bulldog. Yeah.
I've watched some of your interviews on the War Room, and she seems like she has zero quit in her. That's impressive. And I always try to bring this up in each one of my podcasts, but courage is contagious. And you guys are out there on the forefront leading the charge in Pennsylvania, and people are noticing that across the country. Yeah. And it's very impressive what you're doing. And you've been in it for 5 years. I mean, that tells you that you don't have any quit in you either. What I witnessed in 2020 was a sham. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what side of the aisle you're on. If you allow them to get away with it this time it might be in your favor. Next time it won't be. At the end of the day, it's one big uniparty. Mm-hmm. And yes, it is. There's a few fighters in there. There's a few people that I think highly of. But for the most part, there's a lot of thugs, and there's a lot of people that are compromised in one way or the other, whether it's blackmail from something they've done they're not proud of, or they've some kind of money extortion. I don't know what goes on at the top, but I can tell you there's a lot of things that go on at the local level. I have a strong, sneaky suspicion that it's some sort of blackmail, but whoever they're dancing for, they dance well. We've
got what we needed to do at the federal level handled, but all elections and all politics are local. To your point, it's the school board committees, it's the sheriffs that you ran for, it's the people that actually run our government and allocate money. By the way, this is part of the wealth extraction, contracts, and there's a lot of reasons people cheat during elections. And if they don't have that federal oversight, then they can do whatever they want. And since 2020, what's enabled this insanity of local officials stealing elections with full impunity is our own federal government, or specific people within our federal government stole the federal election or the presidential election and said, hey, steal whatever you need to steal. We need congressional seats. We need Senate seats. We need local judges. We are taking control of this country and continuing our wealth extraction. And they hate Trump. Trump is the greatest whistleblower and the greatest president our country has had since Washington. And I speak as a lover of history and an educated man. President Trump is changing things at the top level. But at the bottom level, at the county levels, okay, that's what the things that you and I can do something about. And it's why I love podcasts like this. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate the opportunity to come on to a well-produced podcast and prepared. And it's going to actually put something meaningful out to your listeners. You have the Brazoria County footage, I understand, and for your 2024 sheriff race.
Yeah, we do. So what we witnessed, it was actually, this wasn't the sheriff. We can talk about that also recently. And I wanted to get your opinion on this. And that's why we have this queued up. But recently we had a $167 million school bond up for vote. What I witnessed, and I witnessed this in the past, in November of 2022, I witnessed people running the ballots down the road and going 80 plus miles an hour and getting to the Lake Jackson Mall, and I lost them at the mall. Well, this time I was well prepared. I had multiple vehicles in the parking lot. I knew that it was a must for them to pass this school bond. I knew it was extremely important for them to do that. And this time I was ready for them. Producer Pete, can you roll that clip? So this is the Republican Party chair. His name is Shane Green. He's loading up the ballot bags and all the equipment and the ballots and everything inside his. So that's his truck right there. And he's got all the ballot bags. He had already locked up all the cages that were in that building. And I want your expertise on this, Greg, but I don't know how legal it is for any party chair to have their hands on the ballots whatsoever. I need to look into the legalities of that here in Texas. I don't know how it is in Pennsylvania. I know we have different voting rules, and this is the Republican Party chair loading up the ballots in the back of his truck. What you'll see after this is really the disgusting part. First of all, Greg, what's your thoughts on the Republican Party chair with his hands all over the ballots?
Well, it's completely illegal, and there's so many violations here of chain of custody. He should not have his hands on any ballots. There's so many criminal violations there of election law, federal and state election law, that he should be charged immediately by the state attorney general, the local district attorney, and I'm going to make sure, because of the work that we're doing at the federal level, I'm going to make sure that there's an investigation and that they consider charges or they refer charges, because what he did there is blatant election fraud.
Not only did he run ballots during this bond vote, which I feel like we single-handedly shut this bond vote down, this guy actually ran the ballots from the biggest box in the north side of the county with a lot of voters during my election. But yeah, we can talk on that in a little bit later. But Greg, I'm sick of reporting this stuff to people because they don't do anything. I've reported over and over and over. I don't know what else to do.
Did you report it to the state attorney general?
I believe we did report it to Ken Paxton. I believe.
Okay. Oh, is Ken, your district attorney saw this video and didn't charge?
I haven't showed him this video, but I wanted to break it on the podcast. So he's
good.
So I was interviewed on the Caramo report, Christina Caramo.
Yep.
That'll be the first time this video has been out. Well, the problem is Ken Paxton got hamstrung whenever they ruled that he can't investigate election fraud anymore. And that's how these county district attorneys are able to sweep all this stuff under the rug, because Ken Paxton cannot legally investigate election fraud anymore.
What, they passed that as legislation or what?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, they took him to court and he lost in appeals, I believe. So in 2022, I had a hunch to watch the ballots, and I was sitting in my son's car. I had the seat kicked back, and I was watching the parking lot. And this guy pulled up in a truck, and he parked by the door at the small little area where I live. It's about a 400 square foot room that voting is done on in our little town. And I watched them load the ballots up into his truck after 7 p.m. So the guy was standing in the back in the parking lot, just kind of walking around the parking lot, scoping out the scene. and he waited for the last voters to come out at probably 7:08, 7:05, 7:08, somewhere around there. And when those last voters walked out, he walked into the building, and there was a woman in the truck with him because he had the door open and the cab light was on, and I can see a woman sitting in the driver's seat. But he had the back door. It was a 4-door pickup truck. He had the back door open behind the driver door. So he starts loading all these boxes into the back seat of his truck, which were the ballots and the ballot equipment. And when he left there, it was about 7:15. He left there and he got on the road and punched it. It was it's either a 30 or 35 mile an hour zone in front of this building in downtown Brazoria, and he was going 60, 70 miles an hour in a 35, 40 mile an hour zone somewhere. I think it's 30 miles an hour. And when he got up to that 45 mile an hour zone, I had already got in behind him, and he was already going well over 70. And the only reason why I was able to catch up to him several miles down the road was because the light turned red at the prison, where there's a prison unit right there. And so he took a left leaving Brazoria with those ballots and went back into Lake Jackson. And I thought, this is a strange route for him to be taking these ballots. And then as soon as he got into Lake Jackson, he took a right, which is going away from Angleton at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So he was absolutely doing something with those ballots, and he turned off into the Lake Jackson Mall. And at this point, I know he's starting to look in the rearview mirror. So at this point, I finally think he knows I'm onto him. He knows I'm following him, because I was behind him at every red light that caught him. And so I went to the next light to go into the mall so he didn't think that I was following him. And that was a mistake on my part, because I couldn't find him after that. I didn't want to surprise him or get him to do anything that he wasn't going to do already. I wanted to catch him. So I couldn't find him in the Lake Jackson Mall parking lot. So I drove over to the tabulation center in Angleton, and I sat across the street from the building waiting for him to show up. And I got a little uneasy feeling. I started to feel a little sketchy there, sitting in a dark parking lot by myself, knowing that I had just witnessed something I wasn't very sure of, but I figured as much, that it was some sort of election fraud. And I'm sitting in a dark parking lot by myself, so I felt a little uneasy. And I don't have that fear in me at all anymore. I'll follow anybody anytime, and you'll see in this video coming up. But I went home and opened up my laptop and pulled up all the cameras at the tabulation center to see when he showed up. And he didn't show up for about 2 hours after he had left that building in Brazoria. And it's only a 15 to 20 minute drive. So 2 hours, he had his hands, whatever they do with them ballots between the polls closing and the tabulation process in the county tabulation center. What do you think they're doing with those ballots on the road?
What we found here in Delaware County is there is another sorting machine. We don't know where it is. We've accused them of it. We have the evidence of that, hard evidence from the mail-in ballot envelopes, that there are multiple mail sorters. What should have happened is these ballots should have gone immediately by county officials, not the Republican chairman. There should have been a chain of custody. They should have been sealed. There's a number of processes that have to be done, but this is a chain of custody failure where accountable officials who are sworn officials should have taken it immediately to the county seat where the ballots are counted. They should have been received. There should have been seals on them that were taken off, a chain of custody, so that they knew where these ballots came from. So what happened in that 2 hour period is they obviously opened them, and they went through them. What they need to do when they create, what they did in Texas in particular, what they really care about is the cast vote records and getting basically changing the results to whatever they want to change them to. So what's important to them is knowing how many people voted, so they can make the record come out correctly. So depending on the county or whatever precinct or where these were taken from, I say, okay, we had 50 people in this precinct, 45 here, 200 here. They can craft an entire election in a matter of an hour, sometimes less. In Delaware County, they only need to do 2 or 3 precincts to change the outcome of an entire election. But because of the size of your county, they needed to go through all of them. So I would say there's a number of different ways they cheated. They absolutely cheated. And the results, they did not have an election there. It was a fraudulent election, and it was a selection. And I can say that with great veracity. Okay, having the chairman go off and showing up 2 hours later. What I would suggest to you at this point, Kevin, is we have right to know laws in Pennsylvania. I think you have them. I know you have them in Texas. They're similar to FOIA, requests for records and so forth. For election records, they are required to keep those election results federally for 22 months. But even if you don't need a federal, it's been a fairly recent election. And what you can do as a matter of a right to know, you don't have to file a lawsuit. Every state has it, is to say, I want to see the ballot, the mail-in ballot envelopes. Now, the mail-in ballot envelopes, as a matter of law, both federally, and I can give you the statutes, and probably locally, they're not going to let you look at the ballots at this point. They're not going to let you do a recount. You might be able to get the cast vote records, which are the digital images. The laws differ. I can work with you on that. But what we got to do is get the mail-in ballot envelope images, front and back. Now, there should be timestamps on them. They should have photographs of each one of these ballots, depending on what machines they used to process them. But that will give you the fingerprint of the fraud, because they always forget something. Criminals are stupid, which is really a good thing for us, and it's easy to catch them. And I'll tell you the first thing they're going to do, and they do it every time, without fail, they destroy the evidence. And what's going to kick them in the butt going forward is that the destruction or spoliation of evidence, especially election records, is what they call an adverse directed verdict. If you destroy the evidence that would exonerate you, the court can only infer that you're guilty.
Right. This particular election was the one that I'm referring to was back in 2022.
That's right. That was a federal election.
Yeah. And the guy that was running the ballots at the time wasn't even an election official. He worked for the county road and bridge crew. He worked for one of the commissioners. Now, the reason why I know that is because he had a bright orange vest on with the county seal on the back of it, because it was clear as day. He was standing underneath the lights out there. I could see it. So why is our county commissioner road and bridge crew man running these ballots from the voting location to the tabulation center, number one? Number two, why did he take them to the Lake Jackson Mall and go run off in the mall going 80 miles an hour? Mm-hmm. And when I filed the police report with the sheriff's office, they did not want to contact me back. They did not want to discuss what had happened. And I finally demanded that somebody reach back out to me, and they asked me a series of questions. And they had an investigator named Clint Lowprice, something like that, that was assigned to the case. In his police report that he wrote up, it said something about he had went to the tabulation center and talked to the elections ladies up there, which would be Joyce Hudman, I believe, and her crew, which is our district clerk, our county clerk. And they said that yes, the ballots did go to the Lake Jackson Mall, that they were aware that the ballots went to the Lake Jackson Mall. But the reason why he went there is because of inclement weather, and he had to put the ballots in the back seat of the truck. Number one, do a quick Google search.
I'm sorry, it's absurd.
Yeah, there's always an excuse, right? But if you do a quick Google search of November 8th, I believe, 2022, in Lake Jackson, Texas, there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Number two, none of that equipment touched the back of his truck. It was all loaded into the back seat of his truck when he left that building. They
said they went to the mall. You lost him at the mall.
Yeah.
And then they were gone for 2 hours. How did they explain that?
There's no explaining it, Greg. It's organized crime is what it is.
It is.
And it's organized crime all the way to the top of the county election officials. Mm-hmm. So the election officials, district attorney, the sheriff investigator, the Republican Party chair, the Democrat Party chair, they all know about it. They're all in on it. So even in the county, at the county tabulation center, they wear coordinated shirts. So there's a few of them that wear tie-dye shirts. And those are the ones that if you watch the cameras, they're the ones that have their hands all over the ballots that are running around the room. So why would a few of them wear the coordinated shirts? Is that kind of so how they know
who's who.
Who's who in there.
Who's who in the zoo? Yeah.
That was 2022, but this time I was ready for them. So I had multiple vehicles in the parking lot, and they were not going to shake us off. And one of the trucks happened to look like my truck. So I got video of the Brazoria County Republican Party chair, Shane Green, running the ballots himself. But we got to get a word from our sponsors. We'll get right back into it when we get back.
And now, a word from our sponsors.
Need a barn built to last? At Stuckey Barns in Brazoria County, Texas, we blend quality craftsmanship with rugged durability and Texas pride to make your dream barn real. From custom barns to metal buildings, we build strong, local, and backed by a hometown service. Need bold, high-quality ink? Seven Souls Tattoo Studio has you covered. We're obsessively clean and professional, guiding you from idea to unforgettable art. Got old ink? We'll transform it into stunning new work with precision and creativity. Drop by Seven Souls at 20 Circle Way in Lake Jackson, Texas. Boat season's here. Is your ride ready? At Liquid Rides in Brazoria, we handle certified marine repairs and full engine builds. We're your Mercury Marine and PCM dealer, keeping you smooth all year. Plus custom stereo installs for boats, vehicles, side-by-sides, and Jeeps. Liquid Rides, custom audio, certified performance, built in Texas. Looking for real coverage from real people? Whether it's your home, car, or business, go see Landra Olson's team at Farmers Insurance in West Columbia, Texas, where hometown service meets top-rated protection. Spring's here, and it's time to get those flower beds and gardens in shape. Rifles Feed and Supply in Brazoria has soil, mulch, and everything you need to make your yard pop, plus the best feed and supplies for your animals. Fentanyl is taking our loved ones' lives every day, but knowledge can save them. Travis's Voice is dedicated to raising awareness, educating communities, and preventing future tragedies. To learn more, go to travis'svoice.org.
And now, back to the Kevin Henry Podcast.
And welcome back. We're here with Greg Stenstrom, and we were about to play some video that I happened to capture in May of 2025 when they were trying to pass the BISD school bond. Greg, we'd like to get your thoughts and analysis on what you're seeing here in this video that I captured. This is the Republican Party chair, Shane Green, with all the ballots and all the boxes in the backseat of his truck. Right here, what you see on the screen is a buddy of mine's truck pulling out of the parking lot and following Shane Green. And Shane Green immediately thought something was up. So he pulls over and he puts his flashers on. So producer Pete, can you play that video real fast? So that's Shane Green. So Shane Green stops.
That's it.
And he pulls over because he sees that truck behind him. And he thinks that truck's me because that truck looks really a lot like my truck. It's a big Ford. It's lifted. It's got company decals on it. But Shane Green at the moment thinks that that's my truck. He doesn't realize I'm in the truck behind. Producer Pete, go ahead and hit play again. So he kind of hangs out there, and I get on the speakerphone with my buddy, and I tell him, go ahead and leave the parking lot and go around him. He's on to you. So he pulls out on the highway, and I slow way down, hoping that he gets in behind him and I don't have to go in front of him. So he turns out on the highway, gets in front of me.
Yeah.
And then I follow him out on the highway. Wow. And he's still suspicious of my buddy that's in that Ford truck that's in front of him. He's going about 15 miles an hour slower than the speed limit, maybe 20. I mean, he's going pretty slow. He gets up to a county road when you get outside of the town of Lake Jackson, and there's a county road a little bit further up. And I have a sneaky suspicion that that's the road that he was going to turn on and go do, because there's a one way in and one way out. There's no other access to or from that road. It's a real quiet road with nothing back there. And I think that there was somebody on that road waiting for him, whether they had the procured ballots, or maybe you can give me some insight of what they can do on the side of the road. But he immediately pulls over right there, Pete. He pulls over on the shoulder of the road right before that road turns off.
And you got video of this nitwit, driving around with ballots. That is insane, because you say there's a 2-hour delay from the time he had them So they got to the
No,
central.
that was 2022.
Oh, 24. How long did it take this time?
This is 2 months ago. This is 25.
Mhm.
This one he went straight there because I followed him. I literally did not lose him. And when he pulled over on the shoulder of the road because he wanted me to go around him, I pulled in behind him and I parked.
Good. Well, he shouldn't. He had no business with them.
I mean, nobody does anything. It doesn't matter what party you are. Is if you're part of them or you're not. That's the thing.
Right.
They rigged these elections tandemly, the Democrats and the Republicans.
Absolutely.
They control the ballot box. They control who drives these ballots.
The whole thing is you got to say that. And let's just say it. Are we rolling tape now, Pete?
So he gets up to a point where there's a county road that turns off to the right, pulls over on the shoulder of the road, and I pull in right behind him. I just stop and I said, I already remembered my lesson from last time losing that guy in 2022 that went to the mall. And then 2 hours later, he shows up with the ballots. This time we're prepared. This time I pulled in right behind him when he pulled over on the shoulder of the road, and I did not allow him to go anywhere else. Number one, I don't think he was going to turn down that county road knowing that there was somebody following him, because he would have led me straight to their accomplice. And I would have got another license plate on video and somebody else would have been involved. If I'd have had a third vehicle, I would have had that third vehicle turn down that road and go down there and look and see if there's a vehicle waiting. But this guy gets back out on the road and he cruises back towards Angleton, and you can see him all looking in the rear view. You can see the people in the back, the person in the back seat. You can see him looking behind the glass, looking out the glass. You can see the driver looking in the rear view mirror. They're swerving all over the place. They're going under the speed limit. And then he gets up to Highway 35, where there's a part where you take a right off of 288 and you get on 35 going back in towards Angleton. And he pulls up to the light and stops. And there's no traffic. He could have stopped and took off and went to the right. There's no traffic. He just stopped.
Was delaying. He was going slow.
He was delaying.
And were there two people in the car or just him?
It was him, his wife, and another woman.
Okay, so they had time to do things. What kind of machines do you use there? Are you using Dominion, Harta Civic, ES&S? Do you know what type of machines they're using?
I think we're using ES&S.
Depending on how they transfer the vote, there's so many things they could have done, even in that short time, with those ballots, opening them. They should never have had them. And the question I have is it's a blatant violation of not only election law. There's other things you could charge him with criminally, both federally and I'm sure locally, for dishonest public service, suspected election fraud. And you have to he's got to be either one of the most corrupt or stupidest district attorneys I've never, ever heard of that would be able to look at these videos from 2022 and 2024 and somehow act against you.
I don't understand why. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. Is he controlled also? Because
you say they're stupid or corrupt. It's one of the two, because, and I don't believe district attorneys are stupid. So if you eliminate stupid, you only get corrupt. That's it. That's the only possible explanation for him not to do an investigation and prosecute this. There's obvious violations of multiple laws. Nobody explained. Instead, they ended up interrogating you. Okay, instead of, doing the investigation. That video that you just showed is idiot proof. So they either had to, I don't understand how the district attorney could not make charges, or, he didn't even need a grand jury to do a referral. You've got the official working for the GOP taking all of the ballots, which includes the electronic devices. It includes quite a bit of materials as counts for the ballots, depending on what machines they use. There's machine counts. There's a number of different things that you can do with the envelopes and change CVRs. A lot of this is technical language, but I'm going to say this. Well, what the court might say is you're speculative, and so we're not going to charge, and that's what the DA said. But the bottom line is these bags of ballots are supposed to be taken in by judges of elections. They're supposed to be carried by approved officials. There's supposed to be chain of custody logs. There's supposed to be affirmations and attestations from the people who are transporting them. I'd have to look at your local laws and look at the local rules, look at the state law. But I would say there's so many violations of election fraud there. And one of the things is he is a public official. If he's the head of the Republican Party, he's a public official. And a public official is required to not even show the appearance of fraud. And doing so can result in torts. And I want to say something here about you specifically, Kevin, and why I do shows like this, and I admire people like you so much, is I looked at a lot of candidates call me from all over the country because I've been doing this for a while. And they go, can you help me? And I listen, I'm polite to everybody. But there's very, very few people like you who are not only, you're protecting the ballot box. If you are running for an office and you can't protect the ballot box, okay, you might not have won. They might have won this round, but they obviously committed fraud. But if you can't protect the ballot box, what business do you have representing the people? That's my point. So we need people like you, and this is why I come on podcasts like this, and I do admire people like you that stood up. They name names. You've named the people. What was Shane's name there?
Shane Green.
Shane Green. So you name people. And this is required because when you publish this, depending on your, the number of people, hopefully there'll be an impact here because you're doing something. You went out, you protected the ballot box, you protected the vote, which is sacred in the United States. You chased this guy down. You're doing these videos. You reported it to the DA. There's people like myself who have more expertise in going after the corruption of the government. And I'm going to help you on this. I want to go after this guy, and it's not your bailiwick. The things you were doing. These are so many election crimes here. You've got a corrupt DA. I can say that with great veracity. There is not a district attorney in the country who is honest who would not have already charged him. And the fact that he hasn't is a pretty darn big problem. And what should be happening is we should be filing charges against the DA. And disciplinary board requests. And we'll show you how to do that.
I've gone to the DA with different levels of election fraud allegations. The last time I went to his office and I brought my iPad in there and I showed him a video straight from the cameras. If you look at the Brazoria County Tabulation Center, they put these blocks, these redaction blocks where you can't see what's going on at the desk or you can't see certain areas of the rooms. But then I showed him, I said, look here, there's a cell phone sitting in the middle of the tabulation room. Mm-hmm. There should be no cell phones sitting in the tabulation rooms at all. It's one of the laws. And I brought this to his attention with video evidence. And I told him this was in 2024. It was during the primary election 2024. This should not be happening. There should not be any cell phones in that tabulation room. And he even brought it up. It even came out of his own mouth because I said, what would they be doing with this cell phone in that room? What could they be doing? Mm-hmm. And he said it could be bypassing the servers. Mm-hmm. And I never thought about that. That came out of the DA's mouth when I went into a meeting with him. Well, why wasn't anything done about it? I thought, all right, well, now he has evidence. He's got a video of it. He's got an idea of what they could be doing. He knows that it's not right for that cell phone to be in that room, but then nothing happened. And I told him, I said, Tom, if anything like this goes on during my election, during their primary, I'm going to raise hell all over the place. Mm-hmm. And that same guy, that same Shane Green guy, the Republican Party chair, ran the ballots from the north end of the county, from one of the biggest boxes in the north end of the county, when I was running against the Republican opponent. So that wasn't right either, that he's running my ballots also. And that raised a huge red flag. But the biggest thing that really got to me was during my primary election, I had assigned 2 poll watchers to go work the polls in the tabulation center, the central counting center in Angleton. And they allowed both of these women in there. They both had their proper paperwork. And when one of my poll watchers tried to walk into the tabulation room where they're actually plugging in the flash drives and downloading stuff on the computers, they kicked her out immediately. But that Shane Green guy happened to be in that room. The Shane Green, the Republican Party chair, he was allowed in that room. Why wasn't my poll watcher allowed to be in that room? And I'm going to ask you this because I really don't know. What do they do with those flash drives? What could my poll watcher have witnessed on those computers that she would have blew the whistle on? What were they so afraid of her seeing?
There's so many things. On the flash drives themselves, there should be a chain of custody. Now, we fought this here during 2020. They just brought in a big giant box filled with these filled with, hundreds of flash drives, and then just dumped them out. And I said, whoa. There's got to be a chain of custody. A flash drive is the actual official vote. That is the official vote is on that flash drive. So if it's not in a sealed envelope that's been signed, where there's an established chain of custody, so I know where that USB stick came from, that I know what machine it came from, I know what judge of elections it came from. I know I have basically a trace from where it was generated to get to the center. If your poll watcher had walked in and seen a box just filled with USB sticks, now that right there, I would have said
that's exactly what happened. And even the Texas Ranger that did the investigation of this, even said there was a box of flash drives.
Okay, it's improper chain of custody. So what happens is, for people watching this, that's the official vote, and at the machine level, out at the precincts and out where people are voting, that USB stick is in the machine. It's being used to process the vote. That has all of the election data on it, who they voted for, and when they voted, what number they were. There's quite a bit of information. And they take an image of the ballot. This is why the people who are cheating in the country went to such great lengths to fight people on the cast vote records. We had to fight. I think New Jersey is one of the states that won that battle. It took us 4 years to win the battle here in Pennsylvania, but that USB stick has got the whole election. Now, what happens is that goes into what they call a tabulation server, and they plug that in the tabulation server, and it reads the stick. And what it should do is, figure out where the stick is valid and so forth, and then it should record the vote. What they've done with the software, depending on, when the software was installed, was the software tested?
I filed lawsuits on the county, at the county level and state level and federal level, because we found that there was no certifications on the 2022 or 2020 election machines. And every single court that we appealed that to and went through threw us all out on standing, saying we didn't have standing to bring that suit.
Well, were you pro se or were you represented? Yes. You were pro se. That's great. Yes. Because there's a case called Haynes versus Kerner that is ignored at the federal levels, which gives pro se litigants the right to be heard on the merits of the case, removing you for standing while there's an obvious crime. Okay. What they did is they violated the statutes. They violated case law. Now, how long? That was a couple of years ago. But what we're doing here is, if you can forward me those cases, okay, and we're going to have a conversation, we're going to make sure that it gets to the DOJ and the right people, and it gets to the U.S. Attorney General, and it gets to the right people that can go back and hold these corrupt officials accountable. Charges will be made. President Trump's not kidding around. Right now the federal courts are fighting, well, you can't investigate election fraud. What are you talking about? The reason they don't want it investigated is because a lot of the ones that are stopping it are criminals and they're corrupt, and we're gonna get them. So this is going to be a big part of our case. This is a great example. We're going to use your cases, especially the federal case, and it's going to become part of a larger case that we're presenting, and we're working with the U.S. Attorney General and the DOJ on now.
Yeah, I'd be happy to forward you all that information. But
yeah,
we spent a lot of time of our lives learning how to be our own attorneys and learning how to file lawsuits and putting our own money into this to fight against this. Like I said, I'm an independent. This has nothing to do with, are you a Democrat or Republican? This has everything to do with integrity and getting good people in office that were actually elected and not selected. So that's the reason why we have this out of control appraisal district right now, because they're going unchecked. They don't have a sheriff that'll step in and investigate what's going on and them taxing people out of their homes. They don't have a sheriff that'll step in and investigate different crimes and CPS and stuff like that. People are getting away with murder. They're getting away with rape, assault, because we have elected officials that are not allowed to do their job. If they do their job, they will be removed immediately by the powers that be. We need to get good, solid patriots in office that stand up for the people and fight back for the people and not be a jelly spawn coward. So that's where we're at right now. And after the sheriff's race, I wanted a recount. The county came in, they said it was going to be like over $100,000 for me to do a recount, out of my own pocket. But then when I found out that it's the same people that rigged the elections that are going to do the recount, only a fool would throw $100,000 away like that. I don't care what people think of me outside this. I know that I'm doing this for the better of the community. I'm not doing this to make me the sheriff. Look at me. I had no intentions on running for sheriff. I did it because nobody was stepping up that I felt was competent in taking this fraud out. That's a big reason why I did that. But I definitely give you kudos for what you've done. 5 years in the foxholes and the trenches, fighting back with people coming out and intimidating you in the streets. I definitely feel your pain, that's for sure. And then the money part, I'm sure you've gone way deeper in money than I have. Do you have people supporting you financially?
No, I've had some. I've been somewhat lucky, but I don't want to lament. I mean, I did lose my business, paid a heavy price. One of my sons, who I was working with, was fairly despondent. There was a lot going on. He took his life.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We've been sued multiple times and harassed. You look at this and you have to decide, and this is why I'm going to say again, about 95% of people won't do anything. And the bottom line is there's a whole bunch of reasons for it. Licensed attorneys might lose their licenses. People don't have the time. It's usually left to the 5%. And really, what I found is a handful of people. And it's not an insurmountable task to fight those people. I'm fighting people who have weaponized, government agencies at county, state, and federal levels. They weaponized them. But getting into this fight, and you, Kevin, having done this now for years, and myself having done this for years, getting into this fight, you have to love the country. I love our country. I love our republic. I love Pennsylvania. And I think you people in Texas are a special breed of, I think Texas is the only state that's also been a country. You've got a proud history of patriotism.
Absolutely.
That patriotism is what's going to take us home. Heraclitus had a thing called "One will take them home." One will take them home. One person, one stand, and it's okay. You might be alone. I mean, people here, we have a donation page on www.patriot.online, not .com, not .net. It's patriot.online. It's a social media platform, but there's a donation page right there. And I encourage people, whether it's $5, $10, or $20, this is very, very expensive, as Kevin has said. It's hundreds of dollars to file things, just to file some of this stuff, hundreds and hundreds of dollars. And then we get into thousands of dollars when we have to do reproduced records and present these. And we've had a small handful of generous benefactors that have backed us. But for the most part, we've taken a financial beating. I know you have, Kevin, but our country is worth it. My family is worth it.
Right.
And I don't mind, getting into a fight, especially if I know who I'm fighting.
Yeah.
So one of the people you're fighting, you named him, was Shane.
Shane.
Say his name again?
Shane Green.
Shane Green. You're fighting your district attorney who won't do his job. You're fighting corrupt judges or cowardly judges. And I'm calling it out here because while I wouldn't do it in a courtroom because I respect the law too much, I love the law in the United States. Our country has some of the best laws. There's nothing wrong with our laws. There's nothing wrong with our federal laws. Most of our state laws, there's nothing there. It is a system of rules. As a computer scientist and not a lawyer, I look at the rules and they're elegant. I can do something with them. What happens is when the rubber meets the road and you have an attorney who's willing to lie, a district attorney or public officials who refuse to do their job and deliver honest public service, and you have judges judges who are also, whether they're elected or not, either they're corrupt or they're cowards. That's a problem. But we're taking this, we've developed the evidentiary base. We're not only going after the people who are committing the fraud. What we've done now is we've identified the control nodes at the federal level, the state level, all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court. Okay. And we know what clerks are obstructing cases, just tossing cases in the trash so that the judges, some honest judges, never see them. We've got dishonest judges who are basically activists, the political activists in robes, coming down with some of the rulings that have been done with Trump, specifically from Borsberg, and he's the head of the D.C. Circuit Court.
Right.
Seeing some of the things that have come through in the D.C. court, which is where he takes most of his beatings, President Trump. What we need to do, and what we are doing, is we're bringing the evidentiary base to bear, and we're holding these people accountable, and we're suing them under 42 USC 1983, 1985, and 1986, which is the Civil Rights Code, which says you cannot violate my civil rights. I won't let you. I won't let you crap on me and tell me that I don't have standing. You absolutely have standing. And what they're doing is these cowards, and they are cowards, are using any procedural excuse they can find not to hold public officials, including lower court judges, accountable for crimes. And we got to keep working on it. And Kevin, this is a great opportunity. It's great to see what you're doing here. And I look forward to working with you. And we're going to get them.
Yeah.
And we're going to win.
I've been hoping so. I mean, you talk to a lot of people, and I've explained what I've gone through personally and what I've gone through as a business owner, and people saying, why would you do that? Why would you put your business at risk? Because they're leaving bad Google reviews on my business pages and trying to destroy my name, my family name. Why would you do that to yourself? I don't have another option. This is all I know is to fight.
It's your duty.
I have zero other options. I've never doubted what we're doing. I don't like sometimes what we have to do and how much money we have to spend and what we have to do to get to the next step. But I'm not backing down. I mean, you're in it. Once you get this far, you're in it to win it. Mm-hmm. And I figured the next best thing was to get a podcast going and start getting our story out there, all of our stories out there. I never thought in a million years I'd be sitting behind a desk interviewing folks like yourself. And I'm grateful that you're on, but I never thought in a million years that I'd be interviewing people. But here we are. We have to spread the word because the local news rags aren't going to do it. They're not going to. They're out there to bash you if you're going against these clowns. So, I very, very many kudos to you. And what's is it Leah Hoops?
Leah Hoops.
Yeah, you guys have been in the foxholes together and fighting, and it's very, very, very admirable of you guys what you've done. You're giving other people in the country inspiration to go out and fight. Because what I was getting at is the people don't feel like anything's ever going to be done. Like the biggest thing is, why would you do that? Why would you put yourself in that situation if nothing's going to be done? You see it all on TV, like there's what's these fake driver's license out of China, right? Wasn't there a driver's license they were getting fake ballots? I mean, it's all proven. It's all there. There's evidence now.
The evidence is, I want to say right there, the evidence of massive election fraud is a matter of public and judicial record. There is no question. We have never been rebutted. Never in any court have they rebutted that there was actual fraud. Okay? So we have all the evidence we need. The evidence of massive election fraud that's the easy part, Kevin. Okay? People have got to get in their heads that there's election fraud. And I wanted to say something because I know we're running out of time. And I want to bring it up, and it's specific to what you were saying, is you have a duty. If you're a patriot, you have a duty. If you're a Christian, you have a duty to God. People will say they believe in God. They say they honor God. They go to church every Sunday, but they don't obey God. And that's the big difference. Obeying God is God says, if you look, I'm just saying, I'm not quoting God, but our duty as Christians, as Jews, I don't know much about Islam, but I know that the duty of the Christians and Jewish faith is we have a duty to God to face corruption, face evil, face greed. And Kevin, I'm not doing this for myself. I'm doing this for my country, but mostly I'm doing this for my children. So I'm fighting now. So my children and my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren won't have to have a bigger fight in the future.
Well, thank you so much for being on the show, Greg. How can people reach out to you? What's your social handles?
I'm on X, but you can reach me at www.patriot.online, not .com, not .net, patriot.online. It's a social media platform. Right on the front page is a donation button. We really would appreciate it. We need the money. $5, $10 would be great. But you can reach me there. You can follow what we do there. You can follow our cases there.
Greg, I know you have a lot of cases going on, and I'd love to have you back on in a week or two, and we'll discuss those cases in depth. And looking forward to having you on if you'll come back.
I'm looking forward to it, Kevin. It's podcasts like this, and it's patriots like yourself that are making a difference.
Thank you, Greg, and God bless you in all your endeavors. And I look forward to working with you in the future. And in the end, God wins.
I agree.
God bless you.
God bless you. Thank you.